Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of College in Conversation. Unfortunately or fortunately, who knows, Matt is not the host of today's episode. It is in fact Neve. It's lovely to be here for the first time. I have a great conversation for you all today, one of which focuses on equality, diversity and inclusion. That leads me to introduce my guest, Alex Gaunt, who is the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Lead at Lingfield College.
Hello everybody. Yes, my name is Alex Gaunt, Mr. Gaunt. I've been the Inclusion Lead since September, which is a new role which I applied for. I was very excited to get.
Brilliant. So let's start off. What does it mean to be the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Lead, both to you and to the school community?
Well, it depends on how cynical I'm being. At first, my cynical answer as a joke was always that it's my job to have the ideas to get turned down. But in more serious note, I want to try and make this school a more inclusive and welcoming environment for everybody. Because when we look at things like the protected characteristics, and one of the things I'm trying to stress, and that sometimes people misunderstand, is that it's trying to privilege or gain advantage for certain groups. That's literally the exact opposite of what it's trying to do. Everyone has at least some of the protected characteristics. So I'm not sure why I'm gesturing with my hands at this point, but I always do. This is a teacher thing. But everyone has lots of the protected characteristics. So when we have things like the Equality Act, when we're trying to incorporate those into the way we as a school act and respond to things, we are protecting, we are looking after, we are trying to help and support every single student. It's not about some students, it's not about other students, it's about literally every single student, every single teacher, every single member of staff, anyone associated with Lingfield College. That's who we're trying to help. That's what equality, diversity and inclusion, for me, is all about. It's about including everyone. It's making everyone here.
Because everyone is a part of those protected characteristics.
Exactly.
So therefore it's vital to make sure
everyone has an ethnic, racial, national background. Everyone has a sexuality. Everyone has gender. Everyone has sex as they were assigned up, to just name but a few. So we've all got these things. And the thing about the Equality Act is, as well, and the inclusion, is not about trying to sort of lump us all together and make us the same. That's another mistake sometimes people make. We are all different. We are completely different. We've all got different combinations of sexuality and ethnicity and disability and all of these other areas. And that's brilliant. Yeah. Because we're all different. But when we all come together, and if we genuinely can properly come together as a whole, it's so much better. Yeah. When we've all got something different to bring to the party. So we need to not leave anyone out, because if we leave someone else out, we're all, the rest of us, going to suffer, because they're not part of our community anymore. They've got something good to bring to it. So we need to bring people in.
And celebrate everyone as
exactly.
part of that. So I guess my follow-up is, what drew you to the role that you're currently in now?
So I've been a teacher. This is my 18th year now. I know.
Ready?
I know. It's my 10th year at Lingfield College. I am the new Mr. Harrison. But I started teaching because I trained I did a philosophy degree, I did a master's degree, and I loved my subject, but my parents made clear that there was no more money for a PhD and I needed to get a job. Yeah. And I wasn't prepared to give the subject up, so I went into teaching, because that was the next best thing to doing a PhD as far as I was concerned. And I think I might have said this sort of thing to you as your GCSE class at one point. But definitely. I think loving a subject isn't enough to keep you going in teaching. I love the students. I think you're all absolutely brilliant, and there are tiny number of jobs where I get to spend every single day with interested young people who have got something new to say to me. And sometimes we have this sort of idea that I'm, as a teacher, here to impart knowledge and wisdom on you, but it's like this sort of one-way street, and that's absolutely wrong, I would say. It's got to be a two-way street. And over the 18 years of doing the job, I've come to realise more and more and more how much I've learned from you lot, from the students. I genuinely believe I am a better person because of the students, because of things that I've learned from the students, because of things that the students have told me and taught me. And in learning all of this about you, and in becoming, I like to think, a better version of me because of that, I thought, I want to take this further. I want to be able to do more. I can be a bit of an argumentative so-and-so as well. And if there's things that are right about the things, and if there's stuff that I think, we need to, as a school, we need to be doing that better, I always had a slight tendency just say, I'm just going to tell people, I'm going to nag people about these sorts of things anyway. So the EDI role seemed like a really good one because it made I was like the official school EDI nag. And so I had like a proper designated nagging role and an encouraging role. And for me, that was really positive because I can now start using and hopefully developing some of the things that I've learned myself, some of the things I've learned from the students and some of the developments I've made. I can hopefully start helping the school to become a more inclusive, successful environment. And also it puts me in an official role where more people are going to come and talk to me. More students might come and talk to me. So I can learn even more, and that's going to be brilliant. And I can think, I never thought about that. Oh, yes, I can totally see how that could be an issue. Oh, yeah, that's a brilliant idea. We definitely need to take that one forwards. And if I didn't have the job, if I wasn't this sort of figurehead or face of I'm not sure if you really want me as face of EDI, really, but for want of a better word, we'll call it that. And if I wasn't doing that, people might not come and speak to me. They might not talk to anyone about it. And we would, as a school, then lose out on a potentially brilliant idea and a brilliant, excellent new initiative. And that would be a tragedy. So, yeah.
And I think you talk about nagging, but actually it's just like conversation is so important. I think that's why it's perfect for the podcast, like College in Conversation, that we're talking about this inside the classroom especially.
Yeah, nagging is almost certainly the wrong word for me to have used there. Encouraging. Can I go with encouraging?
Exactly, that's
encouraging and positive, forward-looking conversations and discussions and those sorts of things.
And that is how we can change and that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. So can you give us an insight into what you have looked at specifically in your time in the role so far?
Loads of things, actually. It's as soon as it's one of those roles that I sort of found. It's like as soon as I return one stone to see what's underneath it, you say, oh right, there's 1,000 other things that I've got to do. I spent a lot of the first half time in meetings with various different people. There's 1,000 more meetings that I need to have with other people and discovering things that we can look to and we can move forward. So for example, one of the things we have had conversations and a lot of teachers have sort of ummed and ahed about it is, for example, the ethnic makeup of our school community. And we sort of have this feeling that there might be a sort of predominantly sort of white Caucasian ethnic background to the school, but how reflective of the community at large, how reflective are our area are? Because I think you can't say that Lingfield College on the outskirts, on edge of Surrey, Sussex, Kent, we're not going to have the same sort of ethnic mix as some maybe other cities around the UK, like a Leicester or something like that. I think it's not unreasonable to say, have we got a diversity that's sort of comparable to the local area? And it's one of those things that we had various pieces of data, but we'd never sort of sat down and stuck them all together. And so when I was having a conversation with Mrs. Brassett, actually, I mentioned this to her as part of something else. She said, oh, yeah, no, I've got that data. I said, have you? Brilliant. So she passed on to me all of the background for the ethnicity of our students, but also for our staff, ethnic and racial backgrounds as well. And that was really interesting to then look at that and then compare it to the census data, which obviously the government do every 10 years. And actually, it turns out we are actually pretty representative of the local area, which I've mentioned to a couple of people, and they found as a slight surprise, actually. Yeah. But actually, Lingfield College is quite representative of the diversity of our local area. There are some areas where we have slightly higher percentages. There are some areas where we have slightly lower percentages. But as an overall picture, actually, we are quite representative. And that's a really interesting thing to do. But it also highlights that there are some potential issues where we have diversity in our student population that isn't always reflected in like the staff population. So we have, for example, quite a lot of students who've got a South Asian ethnic background, but we don't have any staff in the prep or senior school from that background as well. And that might be something that we can look at moving forwards. Is there a way that we can reach out to potentially brilliant new teachers or brilliant new members of staff from that sort of background? Is there advertising and marketing and HR job applications that we could do that could reach out? Because it seems a shame that someone from a particular background could go through, they could go nursery to year 13, they get their nursery to year 13 plaque at the end of prize giving assembly, but they'll never be taught by a teacher who looks like them. And there's a slight, I don't want to say sadness there, but actually Could it help them? Could it be good to have these positive adult role models in a school? Yeah,
to
absolutely
have that
it
reflection.
could. And so it's something that, because we've gone away and just done the analysis, the data was already there, it was just putting it all together and looking at it. Actually, potentially, we've identified this is something to be aware of when we're doing the sort of the hiring and the advertising and marketing and all those sort of things. This is a thing that we can be aware of, that we can incorporate into our decision making. And I've spoken to a few people, and that's been really, really useful. There's potentially some things in the pipeline in terms of getting some accreditation. There's various accreditation schemes. There's a UNICEF Rights Respecting Award scheme working with Mrs. Wren to start trying to hopefully sign us up for as well.
Right.
And that will help, again, give us some guidance, but it also give a nice way to acknowledge the work that we're doing.
I think that's brilliant, especially from joining in year 7 to year 2, like the progression. Just seeing like attitudes change and things like that has been like really amazing to just see, like just observe, because it really is influential on the language now we are using and things like that.
So you think as a student it's changed for the better?
I do think.
That's good.
Or at least changing.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is most important.
This job is never going to finish. I'm never going to be like, yep, done that now.
Exactly,
there's always going to be something else that we can do and other things that crop up. But that's
exciting.
Exactly. There's always going to be something else. There's going to be another task for me to get my teeth into, or whoever might do the job in the future.
Perfect. So, should a member of our school community wish to discuss an aspect of equality, diversity and inclusion with you, how should they go about organising that with you?
One of the easiest ways is emails. I know it's a really obvious, boring sort of example, but you can email either me, which on my school email, which is gaunt@lingfieldcollege.co.uk. Also, this year as well, we set up an equality, diversity and inclusion email, which is it's edi@lingfieldcollege.co.uk. And I think we need to probably make that more widely known and more widely accessible. But actually, one of the things I wanted to set up an EDI email so that students could email that.
Yeah.
And it means that potentially I can give access to someone else if in years to come, if I stand down or if I move on and someone else takes over, they can take that role over. So there's that as well. We have the EDI Instagram, which is a relatively new creation, but we posted a couple of things already, and so people can contact us through the Instagram there. Can come and talk to me as well.
Yeah.
I'm almost always around. I'm always around somewhere, but usually
Indeed.
I'm in room 1, so you can always come and just have a chat with me, or talk to any other trusted adult. We've got a whole staff body and who are there and willing and happy to help people. And so anyone who's concerned or anyone who wants to discuss any sort of aspect, they can talk to anyone. Hopefully they feel that they can talk to someone. As I've always said to my classes, my forms and things like that, when we look at some of the important issues and difficult issues, that not everyone's going to feel comfortable talking to me. And I get that, because I'm not the right person for everyone.
Yeah.
But that's okay if there's someone else. As for me, as long as everyone on the student body feels that there's someone on the staff, someone at this school that they could go to and talk to, that's okay. I would love them to be able to and happy and comfortable talking to me. But if you have no idea who I am, if you've never met me, sometimes
it can be tricky.
Exactly, it can be tricky, and a new teacher can be a bit intimidated. Like, you don't know them, or you've only seen him twice when I was shouting at some year 9s for being noisy in the corridors or something like that. So I don't want to go and talk to him. He was really mean to those year 9s or so. It's like, get that. So talk to someone else, and if it's serious, they can pass it on to me. They can pass it on to Mrs. Parsons, Mrs. Sevier, one of our other designated helpers.
Brilliant.
Please.
That's great advice. So can you share with us one thing that everyone kind of in the school community, students, staff, parents, can do to educate themselves about EDI? Is there something you can watch, read?
I think we all just need to listen. Actually, honestly, we need to listen to each other. And I've had these conversations with various different people, and a lot of issues, a lot of difficulties come about because people don't necessarily understand and don't realise a language that they're using, a word choice that they've made isn't appropriate. But when someone says, actually, I don't like that, could you use something else? Listen to them and try and do better next time. And it's just, this isn't necessarily like an EDI thing. That's just for me, that's like a basic politeness and being a civil person thing. Like if you call me by a nickname I don't like very much, like my mum used to call me Al, it drove me up the wall. I said, no, Alex or Alexander or son even, just not Al. Anyway, so I said, like, please don't. And she stopped, because actually that's like, it's just a basic politeness.
It's a communication along with listening.
And we just, so we need to listen to each other. When someone says, no, I don't like that word, can you use this word instead? Okay. And if someone says, actually, no, these are my pronouns, we're going to make mistakes with things like pronouns. So I'm going to mispronoun people every now and then, and other people not through any sort of malicious thing, might just get pronouns wrong. But when someone says, actually, no, he, they're him, or I'm they, them, or I'm she, listen, okay, sorry. We can all, if we all listen to each other. Honestly, I think so many of our problems, like all of the answers exist, or most of the answers exist in our school community. We just need to listen to each other. It's not going to be going away, right, I want you all to go away and read this book or this piece of theory or whatever. Actually, we could solve so many problems if we all listen to the answers that that someone's got somewhere.
I mean, it sounds so simple, but it's definitely something I think we can all work on.
Yeah, absolutely.
In every capacity.
Yeah, absolutely.
So finally, February is LGBT History Month. Therefore, can you enlighten us on what's going within the school community to raise awareness and support the matter?
Too many spoilers.
Of course, yeah.
Yes, so we're doing assembly on this Monday, which is I want to say 31st of January. Okay. To launch it. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about LGBT history, but also the theme for LGBT History Pride Month this year, which is Behind the Lens, which is I think is a really exciting idea. That
I was looking into it and it sounded really interesting.
It's really cool. And so you've got, a lot of the time when we think about like famous LGBT people, you're thinking about characters in shows maybe, or actors or singers or influencers. I think that's the right.
Indeed,
It covers the whole YouTuber, TikTok thing, doesn't it? I'm sounding so old.
No, carry on, you're fine.
But actually, the people who are behind the scenes, the directors and the writers and the costume designers and the set designers and all the other myriad people that go towards making these amazing shows, like really making huge differences, always get the sort of the limelight and don't always get that credit. And so that's what the idea of LGBT History Month is to look at the creators and to celebrate the creators from who are behind the lens. And so in the assembly, I'm going to talk a couple of people who particularly I love. There's Dana Terrace, who is the creator of the Owl House, which is on Disney, which independently of any sort of other themes and positive representation, it's got amazing positive representation of the LGBT community. It was Disney's first ever non-binary character in the Owl House. It's brilliant, and it's created by Dana Terrace, who is a bisexual woman, and she has put a lot of her own experiences and ideas into the show, and it's just an amazing show. It's really good, and I'm going to properly nerd out about it, but it is absolutely brilliant. This amazing fantasy world that has been created, and it's a wonderful show that also has incredibly good representation in it, and all come from the mind of this incredible writer, Dana Terrace, who's a writer and animator, and she's just amazing. And so that's a wonderful show. And also Nate Stevenson. So Nate Stevenson was the showrunner on the She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, which was, again, not going to wax lyrical too much, but it was an incredible show. It was a brilliant show with, again, amazing representation, but also, more than that, it was just an incredible story as well. And also, he wrote a book called Nimona, which it's a graphic novel that he published when he was like 23 or something, obscenely, to be that good, that young is just incredible. And Nimona is being made into a film that's being released this year. Was with Disney, I want to say Blue Sky, but Blue something or other studios. That unfortunately got shut down when this film was sort of 3/4 finished. But Netflix took it on, and Netflix bought it. And Netflix are finishing off and releasing it. So Nate Stevenson is a trans man, and is still, I think, only in his 50s, and to have done all these incredible things, also has suffered with a lot of mental health issues as well. So Nate gives, again, this behind-the-scenes incredible creativity and has made some really, really wonderful things. And I know some of our students are aware of Nate Stevenson as well, and if not aware of Nate Stevenson, also aware of the things that he's produced, the things that he's been associated with. So those are like two really, really good examples that I'm going to have to try and control my natural enthusiasm of them and not just go on and on and on in the assembly. They're just wonderful people. And hopefully then that will lead us into then have a sort of series of sort of PowerPoints and things like that and PSHE time where the tutors' times are really, really rushed and difficult and tight. We're going to launch a competition for the students to produce a creative response themed around a TV show or streaming show or film which has positive LGBT themes, where they've got an opportunity to themselves go behind the lens of a LGBT-themed TV show film. They can create a new character or write a scene that they'd like to see, whether that be filming it, storyboarding it, scripting it. They can create some new set designs or some new costume designs. They could do for writers who don't want to do the sort of arty thing, they can do some fan fiction or something like that. Or they could do something completely different. That's, I don't want to sort of limit their creativity by my lack of imagination. I want to give them the chance to do something fun. And so it's to try and encourage as many students as possible to, rather than sort of passively listening to information about various people, to become more actively involved in it and sort of reach out and say, look, we can do so. Oh, yeah, no, I've got a really good idea about that. Oh, I love that show. That's really good. Yeah, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Wouldn't it be great if, Holt and this other person did that, and where it might be? And so you got loads of these different potential examples. We've got an incredibly creative student body.
Absolutely.
So let's let rip on it. And so over the month of the Pride Month, we'll be running this competition. We'll be encouraging. There'll be prizes to be won, and we're going to use the display space on the main school corridor. I've already arranged with Mrs. Fallows that she's going to give us some display space for a while. So we're going to put up some of the amazing examples, and hopefully we can then create something that's really, really, but also something that is also going to inspire the rest of us and open our eyes up to maybe some things that we don't know about. Like there might be loads of films and TV shows that I had no idea about. It's that's amazing. And if we can start spreading that positive message about positive representation, I think that would be really, really good.
Absolutely. So definitely if you're creative, February, get involved.
Absolutely.
Media, English, anything.
Absolutely. Anything. Any sort of creativity you've got, you can bring it into this. And there's so many shows you can choose from I've mentioned the Owl House, I've mentioned She-Ra, but you've also got other shows where you've got, even like, My Little Pony has got LGBT themes in it, actually. You've got people like things like Kipo and the Age of the Wonder Beasts, and moving away from the sort of cartoons. I say you've got like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but there's also like Heartstopper. Seems to have made a big impact on everyone, and everyone's first reaction, oh, it's so cute, it's so sweet, isn't it? And it is, but it's also, there's a lot of difficult things in there, and it's a really interesting show.
Yeah.
And again, what's also really interesting is that there's a lot of the actors, the creators, they're not just getting people who aren't part of the sort of LGBTQ plus community to imagine what it would be like. There's a trans actor playing a trans character, trans and
actively
LGBT writers and directors, and it's just incredible to have that sort of thing now.
Brilliant. So thank you very much. That leads us to the end of the episode. Thanks, Mr. Gaunt, for joining me.
It's been an absolute pleasure, as always.
I'm glad. Thanks to everyone for listening, and I hope to see you all soon.